show y'all what mental illness really fucking looks like. Y'all wanna see what that looks like? I just did this to my car. Scratched it, keyed it up, I just bought it. I just bought this fucking car. It's keyed all the way. Hit the fucking door. Wanna know why I'm doing that? Cause of mental fucking illness.
Nicholas Diego Llanos, born September 7, 1996, is better known by his stage name LiL Xan, or simply Diego. He is an American rapper, singer, and songwriter from Redlands, California, and is best known for his song Betrayed, which was certified platinum by the IRAA and peaked at number 64 on the Billboard Hot 100 on April 6, 2018. Llanos released his debut studio album Total Xanarchy at that time. His stage name is derived from Xanax, the trade name of the prescription drug alprazolam. Llanos was born to a Mexican father and American mother, and growing up, Llanos was poor and lived in motels most of his childhood. He attended Redlands East Valley High School, but dropped out of high school in his freshman year and spent several years at home unemployed. Llanos took a job as a street cleaner and sold drugs before he began rapping. Llanos later pursued a photography career in support of several friends who were rappers. He eventually had his camera stolen and chose to begin rapping in lieu of investing in a new camera. Llanos began to gain recognition through platforms such as SoundCloud and YouTube. His popularity grew after the release of the music video for his song Betrayed in August 2017. The song peaked at number 64 on the Billboard Hot 100. In an interview with XXL, Llanos announced his debut album Total Xanarchy. The album includes collaborations with artists such as Diplo and Sway Lee. In December 2017, Llanos announced his Total Xanarchy tour, which sold out in 5 hours according to Billboard. In 2018, LiL Xan considered changing his stage name to Diego in order to support his anti-drug message. However, he has since expressed uncertainty towards officially going through with the pseudonym change. Llanos released his debut album, Total Xanarchy, April 6, 2018, and the album was a moderate commercial success, debuting at number 10 on the Billboard 200 and selling 28,000 copies in its first week. The following month, in 2018, Llanos announced the mixtape Heartbreak Soldiers, which was released on July 8, 2018. In September 2018, Llanos announced he had been working on an album titled Be Safe as a tribute to Mac Miller, as these were the last words he said to Llanos before his death. Llanos has given a number of contradictory statements regarding his yet unreleased second album. Initially, he planned to release Be Safe project on 2019, but the album entered production limbo and was eventually scrapped. In 2019 November, he announced his next album would be titled When September Ends and released an accompanying album cover, but this also never came to fruition. In January 2020, Llanos announced that his album was finished and that it would be called Sorry I Didn't Quit, revealing a new album cover that took inspiration from Lil Wayne's Sorry for the Wait. No release date has been given yet for this album's release. In his personal life, LiL Xan started dating singer and actress Noah Cyrus on June 30, 2018. The couple released the collaboration Live or Die in August 2018. They broke up in September 2018, with both parties accusing the other of being unfaithful. LiL Xan also claimed that the relationship was forced by the couple's record label, Columbia. However, weeks later, he appeared to walk this claim back in an interview with Open Late with Peter Rosenberg, stating, "Honest to God, I would say like most of the reason the breakup happened was because of me. It was my fault. We could have still been together, but I just feel like I effed everything up. It also put me in a darker place because I was getting slammed left and right." He went on to say that he had nothing but love for the Cyrus family. LiL Xan has been open about his former addiction to the drug benzodiazepine. as well as opiates and Xanax. He was able to overcome his Xanax problem after 2 years of suffering from addiction. LiL Xan currently speaks out against Xanax abuse and urges people to stop using the drug altogether. In February 2019, LiL Xan announced that he and his then fiancée, Annie Smith, were expecting a child. On April 6, Smith revealed that she had experienced a miscarriage, sharing the information about the incident via a video and photographs on Instagram. However, in a no-jumper interview weeks later, LiL Xan revealed he had suspicions that Smith had been faking her pregnancy. This came about after a number of the rapper's fans on social media pointed out the couple's ultrasound photos looked identical to ones that could be found on Google. The pair eventually separated, with LiL Xan later claiming the relationship had been toxic. Controversies have been many. In December 2021, during a live stream on Instagram, LiL Xan talked about being a drug addict in the past and accused his former stage manager, Stat Quo, of enabling his addiction by supplying him with drugs whenever he was experiencing a withdrawal while on tour. LiL Xan explained Quo was fueling his addiction instead of trying to help him overcome it. He implied that Quo's mistreatment almost killed him. They just want to keep you alive long enough to make their freaking money, and if you die, even better for them. Because guess what? It's easier to manage a dead artist than a live one. While some people believed and supported LiL Xan after this statement, some claimed he was lying for attention, or that he was greatly exaggerating the situation and trying to shift the blame of his addiction to somebody else instead of taking full accountability for himself. Adam, 22, who at one point was close friends with LiL Xan, was amongst those people telling LiL Xan that he should stop playing the victim. So now that I got all the basic facts out of the way, you're probably wondering why you haven't heard much of LiL Xan recently, and if you're not a big fan, you probably don't even care that you've not heard much about LiL Xan recently. But there is a reason that he's barely ever mentioned anymore, and that's because LiL Xan has been committed to quite the downfall recently in the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years. Starting all with a comment that he made that the rapper Tupac was boring. When asked on a interview live what he would rate Tupac's music on a scale of 1 to 10, he said 2, because his music was boring. Let's just say the rap world in general did not reply nicely to this.
Scary looking ass motherfucker. You don't get to speak on anything that has to do with hip hop or rap music. All right. And while you're at it, while you got a few bucks in your pocket, you need to sue your tattoo artist for putting that motherfucking scribble scrabble across your grill. Talk about Machiavelli. Motherfucker, I don't give a fuck how many Instagram followers you have, or if your little bullshit chain spins or does backflips or speaks Mandarin. Give a fuck about that little puppy water. Motherfucker, you're not even skeeting and you talking shit.
Now he does an interview with Revolt where they're playing him different music or asking him about artists, and they ask him about Tupac, and his response is like, boring. He ranking things 1 to 10. He's like, 2, boring. Now Waka Flocka, T.I., they're trying to kick this dude out. They're like, you're kicked out of the game. And now everyone's hitting me like, yo, Rosenberg, this is the dude you co-signed? I'm like, whoa. I posted a picture with him. I don't fucking...
So to LiL Xan, a.k.a. Diego,
congratulations, you played yourself.
anytime you are asked about Tupac or B.I.G., you better get that answer correct, sir.
Yeah, it's just, even if you literally are the world's lightest Tupac fan of all time, right, it ain't worth it.
In hip-hop, some things just are not tolerated.
Nope, you better respect the legends.
It's
just what it is,
especially if they're not here.
It's just what it is.
I like out here. In fact, it's way too many to name right now, but guys like LiL Xan, they just not one of them. Now, music is subjective. So if you like LiL Xan, good for you. Me personally, I don't give a damn about LiL Xan's music. I can't tell you if it's trash or not because I never bothered to listen. You ever listen, Envy?
No.
You ever listen, Yee?
No, I haven't heard it.
All right, so I'm going to just take a wild shot in the dark and say it's trash. But that's not even an accurate assessment because I don't listen to his music.
Now, LiL Xan wasn't exactly a rapper with a lot of street cred when he hit the scene, and if there was any to mention, it was pretty much ripped away with his own words by dissing Tupac and saying that his music from the past was boring, showed he had little no respect for the roots of the music itself. In fact, So many viewers and fans, subscribers and lovers of his music turned against him at this point that he not only had a loss of fans, but haters on the street who would go so far as to accost him, yell at him, shout dirty words at him in the street, and he did not respond well to this, to the point that he started to pick fights at local malls whenever he was yelled, and he even went so far as to pull a gun on some local fans who accosted him at a gas station. And when I say accosted, I don't mean with like punches or a flurry of blows. I mean simply mean words that hurt his fifis.
Hey, yo, bro.
Look at this little homie.
Bro.
Do something then, dog.
What the you want, bro?
Hey, homie.
Get the out. Get out.
Nah, this motherfucker pulling. Hey, you don't see shit, right? Look at little Xan pulling a gun right now. Look at little
Get out.
Hey, look at this guy pulling the gun right now. Look at this motherfucker. Hey, pull that shit out again, homie. Hey, homie, you a bitch. Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Hey, look at my car. Look at my car.
Yeah. Look at your car, you little bitch.
Because he is screaming at someone at the mall. Unsure what started this whole.
A more strange turn of events was after his first tour, LiL Xan decided that he no longer wanted to go by the name LiL Xan and dropped it to be called Diego, but then later took the name back due to the fact that he wanted to be separated from the use of drug use and Xanax. But a lot of people spoke about how he was still addicted. Apparently he had gone to rehab quite a few times. He had even tried to be helped by multiple rappers in the game and his manager himself, Stat Quo. But when none of this seemed to work and he was still addicted to the drugs, his career really started to flop, to the point that he wasn't even showing up to a lot of the concerts he was scheduled to do or the meetups that he was supposed to show up at. This left his management and his main handler putting him out on the curb and no longer able to pay him a salary. He's now somewhat dissed by all of that and no longer left with any sort of way to create more music. This has also meant he's lost a lot of his income and even his car, something that really seemed to upset him.
Do you guys remember the whole Little Peep, the story where his management was giving him drugs and you know, and it just wasn't helping out and all that? Well, that happened to me on tour, and my manager's name, well, I don't even like to call him my manager anymore, Stat Quo. Remember that name, Stat Quo. Because when I was on tour through 2018 to 2000, whatever, the world tours with Nicki and Juice and all that, I was a drug addict back then, right? And my manager was supplying me with the drugs. He knew all my plugs, so if I couldn't perform because I was withdrawing back then, because yes, I used to be a drug addict, you know, he would make calls, send $5,000 out here, $5,000 out here, just to ship the drugs to wherever we're at in the world, Switzerland or anywhere in America. And he's gonna act like he didn't do that, like a fucking hypocrite. And I'm really feeling like I should take him to court, right? Because that was the time I almost died from the drugs. I was so skinny, unhealthy. Yeah, but his name is Stat Quo. I'll even fucking pin this right here. Yeah, Stat Quo. Also, he took my car away too. That I paid. That the majority of the money. How ironic. Peeps my fucking cover too. And now he wants $30,000 of the remaining money to pay it off, which I paid literally. It's all my money in the car, and he won't give it to me. And that's not even the real reason. I almost died on tour multiple times from him supplying me drugs anytime I needed it, because I couldn't perform if I was withdrawing. And I've always wanted to make this case known He is a terrible fucking human being. You know.
He even had a doctor that gave him prescriptions.
And yeah. You know, it just sucks. You know, the industry just sucks. And that's a big reason why I haven't dropped another album, is because it put such a bad taste. After I got sober, it put such a bad taste in my mouth, like, to even want to make music, knowing how fucked the industry is. They just want to keep you alive long enough to make their fucking money. And if you die, even better for them. Because guess what? It's easier to manage a dead artist than an alive one. And that's what sucks about the Juice WRLD situation, is because Juice was one of the most talented fucking people, and now they have his whole catalog of music that did. And who knows if that's even what Juice's vision was. Like, you know what I mean? Shout out to Juice, one of the most amazing artists. Shout out X. X didn't die, obviously, from...
After this, Lil Xan reached out to his friend, who you'll see in a lot of these background videos, Adam22 from the No Jumper podcast, and he asked him for help to try and talk to his manager and get his car back. But in fact, Adam22, instead of helping out Lil Xan, took the side of Stat Quo, and there's a pretty good reason why. For the most part, Stat Quo is known to be a guy who's good on his word. He's not any sort of drug user or dealer or deals in anything underhanded. He's, for the most part, just a manager who manages rappers and does his job well and keeps his rappers pretty clean and pretty healthy. And people knew this, and Adam knew this, and in fact, that made him want to stand up for Stat Quo instead of Lil Xan. And this is what Adam had to say about the situation.
About the fact that I ended up in a little altercation with a rapper on the internet this weekend.
Who?
Lil Xan.
Oh,
I seen this.
More white on white crime.
He's Mexican, but
are you sure? Because you call Boule Mexican.
No, he is Mexican.
All right. Oh, Yuri's gonna leave. So he's gonna miss out
Your
on the
Mexican
point.
meter is terrible.
This is true.
I'll be back.
My dad, I just found out my dad's a fucking crackhead. The best video ever.
So I hop on my Instagram story this weekend because we did the news on, I think, Thursday, where we talked about Lil Xan. Basically, Lil Xan decided that because he's going through issues with his fucking his former manager, Stat Quo, that he decided that he wanted to basically try to gain some leverage in this whole battle for the G-Wagon that Stat Quo is refusing to turn over to Lil Xan because Lil Xan owes him like 30 grand or whatever. So Stat Quo's not trying to hand it over unless he's got the money in hand. So Lil Xan's pissed off. So what's he do? He decides, I'm going to go on my Instagram story. I'm going to blame my drug addiction on Stat Quo, which is just, it's total bullshit. It's completely disingenuous. And when we did the news, I was kind of capping because I wasn't like fully like saying what I thought of the situation, which what I think of the situation is that it's complete garbage. But then I went on
wait. Which part do you think is garbage? You think like Stat supplying the drugs is not true, or you think that
his name is Lil Xan.
I asked Stat
His name is Lil Xan.
I asked Stat Quo. I said, "Did you ever get him drugs?" He said no.
He said
so.
no.
I will take his word for that. But that being said, we can also imagine the extreme other side. Let's say that Lil Xan was getting drugs from Stat Quo like all the time while they were on tour, which, to be honest, they weren't on tour that much. It was like a couple weeks total. Like Lil Xan was saying, like we were on the Nicki and Juice World tour, whatever.
My name was Lil Fentanyl.
It was a week.
If I named myself Lil Fentanyl,
that was a week. You looked up dates.
No, I know because I remember when they went on that tour.
It was a week?
And I remember that he was supposed to be on the whole tour and then he was only on it for like a week because he was tweaking out. They could never get Xan to do the shit that he actually had to do for his career. Like I remember talking to Stat about it and he was constantly frustrated. The thing about Stat is he doesn't do drugs. Stat definitely doesn't do pills. He doesn't smoke weed. He doesn't do anything. He's a boring guy who likes to stay to himself. And like this is the thing that I keep thinking about when I think about how insane it is that Lil Xan actually thought that anybody was going to buy this. So you're saying that you've been addicted to drugs since you were like, 13, 14, whatever, like early in like junior high. And somehow the couple of weeks of your life in which you were on tour, you're saying that your manager helped you to get drugs. So you were able to get drugs every other week, every other year of your entire life before he was managing you and after he was managing you. But somehow those weeks that you were on tour, he was completely incapable of getting drugs, and he needed to rely on his manager, who doesn't even do drugs, to get him drugs. Does this make sense to anybody? No. In reality, you're a grown-up, and if you were getting drugs on tour, realistically, you were probably getting the drugs yourself, because it wouldn't be hard for somebody who's addicted to drugs to get drugs. Not to mention, you could just bring... I mean, how hard is it for you to get on an airplane with like 50 fucking Xans in your backpack? It's not hard. Trust
Probably
me.
not that hard.
Everybody's done it.
Don't
It's
try
not
it,
difficult.
kids.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
try it, but like
maybe don't do it. But realistically, it's like I remember Smoke Perp got caught with like 200 fucking Percocets or some shit on the plane one time. But that's the rare exception, because if you got a bottle of Advil in your backpack, to the fucking X-ray machine, it looks exactly like a bottle of Percocets. It's the same shit. So I mean,
Tips and tricks.
Just the fact that LiL Xan decided to use this drug accusation against Stat, it just sickened me so much that I just had to say something. And then Xan goes on his story and is basically saying that, oh, Adam's just saying this because he's cool with Stat or whatever. Well, actually, I just really feel like Stat is a more trustable, legitimate source of information about this topic as a sober person who you know, it like let's say worst case scenario. Worst case scenario means that like out of LiL Xan's entire life, there was like a couple of times where Stat might have helped him get drugs so that he could fulfill his obligation.
This, of course, did not sit well with LiL Xan. And in fact, some have even said after this little interview they saw of him speaking about Stat Quo that it was quite obvious he was still addicted to Xanax or some sort of drug at the time. If you go back and you watch the video in which he talks about trying to get his car back, there's quite a few signs that he might not be in the most sober state. Now, you guys know my personal beliefs about drugs, alcohol, and anything like that is that do whatever you want, use whatever you want, but also don't use it as an excuse to not earn the things that you need to work hard to get. And in this situation, I went back and I watched the video a couple times, and I don't want to say these are absolute 100% signs that LiL Xan's still addicted to something, but he's touching his nose the whole time. He's snorting constantly. There's someone in the background who is constantly having to prompt him as to what to say. If you keep listening as he's trying to even talk, someone is literally feeding him lines because he seems to lose track of what he's even talking about. And also his voice is that very sort of weak, mumbly voice where someone who is addicted or being kind of cooled down by the effects of drugs is kind of dragging or sort of slurring their speech through something. Now, this might just be the way Diego's mind and mouth works. I do not know that for a fact, as I do not know him in person. But it did seem like he was under the influence of something. And right after this, when Adam22 came out and spoke out against him and took the side of Stat Quo, we really started to see LiL Xan go off the handle. He blames mental illness, but I personally think this is probably another effect of drug use.
Show y'all what mental illness really fucking looks like. Y'all want to see what that looks like? I just did this to my car. Scratched it, keyed it up. I just bought it. I just bought this fucking car. It's keyed all the way. Hit the fucking door. Want to know why I'm doing that? Because of mental fucking all this illness. Materialistic shit don't mean shit in the world. And when they won't let you do, I'm owned. I'm a fucking slave. I'm a slave to my management. I'm a slave to everybody. I don't get control of my license. I don't get control of my bank account. I don't get control of shit. I can't even drive that fucking car. They put it in the basement so I couldn't take it. I know I don't have a license, but if I have someone with the license, I could take it. So fuck everybody. This is mental fucking illness. I don't care. Make fun of me. Make fun of me on the internet. I don't give a fuck. Look at this shit. $150,000. $150,000. You want to see some? Look.
At this point, there's not a lot of attention paid to LiL Xan, and not a lot of his stuff is coming out anymore. He hasn't put out an album since about 2018. His second album put out a single or two, but never put out a full album for 2019, aside from a song that was called You Love Me, and that's about it. That's the last couple things we've heard from LiL Xan. Until recently, he's been talking about that he's going to come back to the music scene, but not the rap game, that he is now done with rap, and I guess wants to start a band like Machine Gun Kelly and do the whole emo thing, or whatever you would call the garbage that Machine Gun Kelly puts out now. Subjectively, I'm gonna be blunt and honest. I've never been a big fan of LiL Xan's music, and I really feel like after Lil Peep died and he was connected to that, I've always thought the dude was a little bit shady. I don't know if you guys remember this, but when I spoke about earlier during the photography time in his life where he was a photographer supposedly, I don't know what amazing photography he did, but he was doing a bunch of video during the time that Lil Peep was deep into his addiction, and there's even a point where he died while he was being filmed by LiL Xan, who was merely recording him thinking he was passed out. And later we found out within that video, which I can't really show here or it's gonna get my video banned, but Lil Peep died on camera. He passed out from the last little bit of whatever drugs he was doing at the time, and that was an overdose and he was dead. And he kind of wrote off of that career because he was the dude who always hung around Lil Peep when his career was blowing up. I believe that's really how he got his dig into the music. He says it's because he didn't want to reimburse himself for the camera that got stolen. But I mean, if you're really making millions of dollars via your album, camera's not going to shove too much off of your budget, I don't think. I mean, a really great camera is around 5 to 10K, and that's about it. And that's if he can afford this little SUV of his, that's this black SUV that he loves so much and he paid 30K on. I don't know why he couldn't afford a good camera set and get back into that. Now that he says he is coming back and not rejoining the rap scene, I think he's kind of been hustled out. I think he's probably still deep into his addiction, and I don't really foresee this guy coming back. On top of it, I think he suffers from affluenza. If you don't know what that means, it means like becoming affluent in a bunch of money deep within it and then kind of losing your mind because of it. There's this problem I see a lot of times where stars hit it big, or even YouTubers too, and I've talked about this with YouTubers before, that it's like they blow up, they get big so fast and so young that they don't know what to do with the money they get or how to handle it. If this guy had literally invested even a little bit into what he had made from all of his touring, he could have blown up. He could have had a bunch of stocks going. He could have had Bitcoin. He could have had just about anything going with his career and used the money for that. But instead, you see a guy now who's blown quite a bit of cash on a car that he can't even fully own. He doesn't even have a driver's license, and he's paid for half of a car that he can't have anymore because he won't finish off the lease that he didn't even sign on with the manager who signed the other half of the lease, which is... it's just wild to me. It's a sad thing because you're giving a bunch of money to someone who doesn't know how to handle it yet, and I feel like there's a problem where no one was there to teach him how to use the money. You know, I'm not saying because you're from a poor background or a rich background that you'll know how to use money. I'm saying that when that kind of money comes into your hands, you yourself, if you haven't had a lot of experience with money through your whole life, need to find somebody who is a licensed accountant, lawyer, somebody who will help you deal with your money in the right way and make sure you don't spend all of it. Was his manager to blame for his drug use? No, I don't think so, because I went back and looked into this, and apparently the time that that guy was managing him was only for about 1 week of a tour, and this guy was talking about how he was addicted to drugs all the way back to the age of 13 before he even started making music. So how you could blame a manager for a week tour and a lifetime of being addicted to drugs really doesn't make any sense. I gotta agree with Adam on this, that he needs to stop blaming other people for the problems that are in his life and get his own life together. Whether or not he does come back to the rap scene or the music scene in general, he needs to find a stable outlet to use his money and his talent on, if you want to say he has any talent to begin with. What is you guys' personal opinion on LiL Xan, and how do you feel about his music? Are you a fan of it? If you are, more power to you. What do you think about his drug use and how it affected his career? What do you think he should have done with his money? I'd love to know in the comments down below. Until next time, I've been the Inksmith. Have a great rest of the day.